dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Hey man, welcome back to the Midnight Hustle. It's your boy, DieHard Derek, back in the house. No, it's been a little bit of a hiatus here, but don't worry about it, because I brought friends. Did you think I was coming empty-handed? The fuck out of here. Look, tonight we're talking about something that's very passionate to all of us. We're talking about our favorite childhood wrestling moment. And I'm not just talking about any moment. I'm talking about that moment that when you fall asleep at night, that's the one thing that you think about over and over in constant rotation in that fucking brain of yours. And then when you start talking about the reason why you got into the pro wrestling business to begin with, it's that moment that sparks your passion, your love, and your interest. And tonight I've got four other guys here. All of us who have gotten our feet wet in the world of professional wrestling. But we're not talking about what we've done in the business. We're going to talk about the things that we saw as a child that made us want to get into the business one way or another. Let me introduce you to the panel. First, we got the most decorated journeyman on the independent scene today. The one unsigned talent who every promotion out there wishes they had and dropped the ball for the fact that he's not working on TV every single Monday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it is. The Greek god himself, the co-host of the New Force Order podcast, Greek God Papadon. What's going on, brother?
Fuck that guy. He owes me money, that prick. No, I'm kidding.
Hold up, fake studio audience. You get a pop for Papadon? Thank you very much.
Oh, so that's what a pop sounds like. Gosh, all this time.
I know you've never heard that before.
No,
now we got my
never.
other boy. He's been a wrestling fan since 1977, and he'll tell you, anybody with two fucking ears, how long he's been watching pro wrestling. He was my associate producer when we were booking NWA Cyberspace. Give it up for the co-host of Toddy D's Pro Wrestling Podcast, Brooklyn's own Toddy D's in the house. What's up, guy?
What is going on, my guy? It's a pleasure to be here with a bunch of legends. DieHard Derek, thank you for having me on. And yes, a fan since 77.
Now we've got the two-time Independent Wrestling Hall of Famer with the NYWC and Jim Kettner's ECWA, the one and the only King Mega. What's up, brother?
Three-time Hall of Famer.
Three-time. Whoa.
It's three-time.
Where's the other spot? I must have missed that.
NYWC, ECWA, and Right Coast Pro.
All right, give it up. Three-time Hall of Famer. There we go. And for the first time here on the Midnight Hustle podcast, you may have seen him kicking somebody's ass up and down the East Coast, all over the globe. One half of the Hit Squad, the one and the only Steve Monsta Mack. What's up, brother?
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing?
Pump.
I just
Pump.
real quick.
Pump. Doghouse in the house.
Mega is one of my favorite people that I've ever met in wrestling, and so is Papadon. I won't tell too many people that, Papadon, your secret is safe with me.
Thank you,
I've had many great years traveling up and down with them, and every single time has been an amazing moment, and I'm pretty sure tonight is going to be just more of the same for us.
Man, when you look around, just look at how much fucking wrestling experience we have here. I mean, just decades worth of knowledge, of experience in the ring, outside the ring, behind the curtain. But it didn't start there. It all started with us as little guys watching our TV sets every Saturday morning and wishing that, trying to figure out how we can be a part of that, this larger than life world. And that's what I want to talk about today. Before we even get into that, why don't we just give a quick little history, give us a rundown, how long everybody's been in the business. Mega, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. Well, my first day of training was January 2nd, 2000. Very first day.
It's been a while. And you wrestled how long?
20 plus years. Not counting COVID, and I haven't been as active as Papadon or Steve the past couple of years, so I'll just say 20 plus.
Steve, what about you? How long you been in the business?
So my first unofficial match was in October of '96. Me and Low-Key wrestled on a street fair in Brooklyn, and still wrestling to this day. I have a match May 25th? I forget the date. I'll have to look it up. Me and Anthony Gang going to wrestling Ridgefield Park in May. So I guess I'm considered still active somehow.
Still active. Still lacing up the boots, brother. Congratulations, man. Greek God Papadon, talk your shit.
My first match was on my birthday, July 17th, 1999, against simply the best Andrew Edwards at the Doghouse after joining the Doghouse in June of 99. So I've been doing this 25 going on 26 years.
Woo, goddamn. And still going strong, collecting straps.
Still
everywhere
out,
you go.
still out working the young guys as they blow up after 10 minutes. I'm running circles around them, telling them to catch up. But to be fair, 5 minutes of playing Legos with my sons, I'm tapping out. I'm already blown up. So,
and just because he's Greek, he's collecting wrestling straps, not strap-ons. Big difference. Ain't that right, Greek God?
Here we go. Here we go.
Real quick, I just wanted to send you a quick shout out. I just did a show with Mike Mondo, and that day he had watched our match from ICW, and he gave us high praise. And that
was one of my favorite matches of all time.
Yeah, mine too, man. Mine too. That's why I had that video come out with the clothesline, because it started there. I saw the clothesline. I was like, damn, they used to throw a really nice clothesline. What the hell happened?
You still do. Still do. Stop it. Come on, man. Stop. Please. These
Toddy
kids
D,
did
give
it.
us your background.
All right. So besides being a fan since 77, in 1990, I was trained by Johnny Rods. And unfortunately, Angel's not here tonight. He was one of my trainers along with Kid USA Armand. My first introduction to wrestling was the Battle Royal Christmas 91. And I got the shit beat out of me, flung out of the ropes like second or third guy, landed in the front row, did it for about 10 years, took a break, met you in 05, NWA Cyberspace, rest is history.
Yeah, man. And then for myself, September 11th, 1992, I got asked to start writing for a dirt sheet. Rich Mancuso's Keep It in the Ring in his 900 number. That led and grew into bigger things in the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn, but Rich Mancuso was on Bronx in the Bronx. We were doing stuff over there, doing coverage, and that ended up getting me office time or FaceTime with WWE and WCW. I ended up in WCW in 1997 to 2000, right before they closed down. And then like a couple of years later, 2004, running NWA Cyberspace with the late, great Billy Firehawk. Until it closed in 2007, and then popping up here and there, doing this shit now. But again, a lot of creative energy, a lot of wrestling passion going on here, and why don't we just start getting into that? I'm gonna lead it off here. So what I've chosen, my moment that just sticks in my head has got to be the night on Saturday night's main event. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it's the night that Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage shook hands to form the Mega Powers. Why, you ask? Oh, yeah. He's gripping it, right? I love it. Now, I'm going to take you a little bit back. I'm going to set this up. My first live event was at the Nassau Coliseum in 1985. Hulk Hogan was in the main event against Jesse the Body Ventura. Randy Macho Man Savage was fresh on the scene. He does a run-in, grabs the belt, knocks Hogan the fuck out. He's bloodied up. I'm like, whoa, who's this guy? After intermission, Macho Man comes in, drops the elbow on a jobber, grabs the house microphone and says, "If Hulk Hogan could see me now." Ooh, it sent fucking chills up my spine. That sets up a tag team match the following month where it's Jesse the Body Ventura, Macho Man Randy Savage against Hulk Hogan and Tito Santana. Clearly, they were pushing Macho Man to become the Intercontinental Champion. The thing is, though, everybody loved Hulk Hogan. He was the real American. He was the red and yellow. He wasn't my style. There was something about Macho Man Randy Savage. When I saw that motherfucker, I was like, that's a heel. That guy's an antagonist. That guy just gets under your skin, and the shit that he does just lit me on fire. That's who I wanted to be like. Fast forward a little bit. Macho Man Randy Savage starts popping up on TNT with a t-shirt that says Hulk Who. He just comes into the company, and right away, he's going for the big dog. Now, I'm not smart to the business. I'm not thinking, well, shit, if he goes in, he'll do the job, and then just fucking dissolve away. Fall down the card. But regardless, he still got championship matches against Hulk Hogan. One of my personal favorites was at Madison Square Garden. It was a lumberjack match. And wow, if anybody outside of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who I thought was going to beat Hulk Hogan and take his strap, it was Macho Man. I thought he was going to do it there that night at the Garden in that lumberjack match. The ring is surrounded by all these wrestlers. Every time Hogan got thrown out to the heel side, they beat the living shit out of him. He dropped the elbow on him. I'm like, this is it. 1, 2, 3. We got a new fucking champ. But it didn't happen. I was okay with that. Problem is that when you lose to Hulk Hogan, where do you go next? Clearly, the IC title was in his path. He beats Tito Santana, goes in the tights, takes out whatever the fuck that was. Until this day, I have no idea what that foreign object is. Dug in the tights, swung, he missed, but when on the suplex, hit him one time and then chucked it out of the ring for the 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we had a dirty ref and Danny Davis, but it didn't matter. Didn't matter. There was gold around the waist of the Macho Man. I was happy. All up until WrestleMania 3. Now, at WrestleMania 3, he drops the belt, and I'm already getting a little smart to the business. I'm like, what's going to happen to the Macho Man now? What could possibly happen now that he's no longer champion? After dropping the belt, there's a Saturday night's main event that I absolutely love. And to me, it kind of gives the best example of who Macho Man Randy Savage really was. Steamboat is defending the IC title against Hercules Hernandez. Macho Man's in the back on a monitor. He's like, no, brother, I got to get that belt. You can't beat him tonight. You got to save him for me. And just when you think that Hercules is going to defeat Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with that full Nelson, and he's just fucking shaking and breaking his neck, Macho Man Randy Savage comes running down a ringside. He grabs the ankle of Hercules and breaks the hold. Well, Hercules didn't win the title. Steamboat ends up winning by disqualification after Hercules throws the chain around his neck, yanks him, pulls him back, leaves him there for dead. At that moment, I thought that the Macho Man Randy Savage was going to become a babyface because he's looking as if, for some reason, as much as he wanted that title back, as much as he wanted a rematch, he was genuinely, maybe not, concerned for the well-being of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Referee turns him over. He's looking at him. Maybe do I need paramedics? So I have to stretcher him out? Savage's like, no, just leave him. Let him breathe. While the referee's looking around, Savage runs up to the fucking corner, drops an elbow, and I'm like, that's the kind of motherfucker I'm talking about. That's the kind of shit that I love. That's what a Savage is, living up to his name. But guess what? I never saw a rematch between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and the Macho Man Randy Savage. Matter of fact, after Ricky the Dragon Steamboat dropped the title to the Honky Tonk Man, I can't even place what Savage was doing for that 6-month period. I do remember, though, on a Saturday morning, Macho Man Randy Savage defeats a jobber, and for the first time, very rare, the cameras go backstage following Randy Savage. He's going to the back. He's looking for Jimmy Hart. Finds him in the locker room, yokes him up. Okay, Jimmy Hart, where's the honky tonk man? You tell him to shut his fucking mouth. Don't talk about me no more. Shut his fucking mouth. Mushes him up, rips up his fucking jacket. I'm like, whoa, that's a heel manager. Macho, what are you doing? Not even thinking. Not even in the wildest dreams could this guy be turning. No, he's too much of a fucking savage. What do? We finally get that match. Interesting. Now, I've seen it before. I'm a big fan of Saturday Night's Main Event. When Macho Man Randy Savage was the IC champion, he defended that title against Jake the Snake Roberts, heel versus heel, one of my favorite matches ever. Never seen it before. Didn't know what the fuck to do. It was like bad guy versus bad guy. I'm thinking they're going to do that again. Savage and the Honky Tonk Man for the IC title. Honky Tonk Man is an Elvis impersonating jabroni. Of course he's going to win it back. So they have that fucking match on Saturday Night's Main Event. The crowd is reacting differently to Randy Savage. And I get it. Honky Tonk Man brought nuclear heat. Doing all this shit. People don't want to see it. They like the Macho Man better. They know what he was capable of. They knew that he was a worthy champion. But again, the fans are popping for him. And I'm there scratching my fucking head. I'm like, this don't make sense. They lock up. They start going at it. Macho Man literally just has this guy. And I'm like, fuck, he's going to win the title tonight. It's going to happen again. Until the Hart Foundation start coming down the aisle. I'm like, oh, this don't look good for Mach. And at that point, I knew that the turn was happening. Just at that moment, when Macho Man Randy Savage looked like he was about to win that title, Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, they bum rushed the show, and they fucked the whole match up. They get involved. Macho Man winning by disqualification, but no championship. It doesn't stop there. They shove Miss Elizabeth out of the way, drop her to the ground. Oh, whoa, you can't put your hands on Liz. This guy's going to flip the fuck out. She goes running to the back, and Macho Man takes that guitar shot. Now, I figure, all right, she popped her dress. She broke a heel, broke a nail. Papadon, I know how you feel about the lady. Send her back to the kitchen, right? But instead, she goes to the locker room, and she's getting help. Help from who? All right, so he's already got the babyface pop. Maybe we bring back Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. After all, Honky Tonk Man is the one who defeated Steamboat. It only makes sense for Savage and Steamboat to make amends. But instead, it's bigger, it's better, it's more shocking. She comes back with the red and yellow. She comes back with the heavyweight champion, the immortal Hulk Hogan. Hulk don't know what the fuck's going on. He's like, oh shit, maybe Liz is taking me to the parking lot for some sloppy toppy. What the fuck is this? Where's she taking me? And he sees what's happening in the ring, and he's like, whoa, brother, that ain't right. That don't work for me, brother. And he storms the ring, clears house, throwing jabs, throwing punches, throwing elbows, and sending them over the top rope. They clear house together, and boom, they hit back to back and turn around. You think they're going to fucking wail on each other, but they don't. Savage realizes that the Hulkster, the man that since day one, when he stepped into the World Wrestling Federation, he was a target. He was the man that he wanted the title. He did everything in his power to get that championship, and now that man came to save his ass because Elizabeth was smart enough to go to the back and go find him and saying, I need help from the biggest pythons in the locker room. And it wasn't Hogan. It was like, hey, brother, it's all good, man. I just came out here to help. No, Macho Man Randy Savage extended his hand first to say, thank you. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for coming out here. Thank you for listening to Elizabeth. And thank you for helping me make this babyface turn successful. That shake blew my fucking mind. Never thought I was ever going to see that. Ever. I'm blown away. We go to commercial. I'm like, this fucking just happened? Are they friends now? Is this for real? We come back from commercial, and they're in the back being interviewed by Mean Gene. They've got a whole new handshake, brother. Oh, shit. Oh, the mega powers are forming. I couldn't believe my mind. Now, granted, yes, that's my moment. And yes, Macho Man was my guy. But I will say I don't think Macho Man had a great reign in his 1 year as champion. Because creatively, they were building up to the mega powers exploding. And that's another great moment, something we'll discuss at another time. But from his championship run to teaming with Hogan at SummerSlam 88 against Andre and Ted DiBiase, to all of the title defenses that he had, by that time, it just didn't equate to that moment that shook me. I mean, yes, WrestleMania 4, seeing Randy Savage win the tournament. When you think Hogan comes in, he just wins anything. You put Hogan in the match. He's got a first round bye, and then he works Andre. Well, never mind. They're just giving the title to Hogan, but they don't. WrestleMania 4, they put the title on Randy Savage. He wrestles 4 times on that card and walks out as the champion. Again, the championship run wasn't that great. Who'd he wrestle? Bad News Brown, Ted DiBiase, One Man Gang. It was okay at best, but they were building to the explosion. But nothing will ever change what I saw that night when creatively WWE took me for a loop when I saw the most vicious man in pro wrestling become the most loved in pro wrestling, and that is my favorite moment. Fellas, let's discuss. What do you think?
Great moment that led to the start of one of the best stories ever in the history of wrestling. 1 year worth of planning. Now you can't even get 1 month worth of planning and make it work right. But
Exactly.
you look back at this main event run between Savage and Hogan, the storyline, the little twist at SummerSlam when Hogan grabbed Liz's butt and Macho was like, "Oh, what the fuck, brother?" You know what I mean? Like, and that led to the dissension and, the turn. But all the way up until that point, everybody was losing their minds, especially, all the kids that love both Hogan and Macho. And, it was a perfect story for that time, given everything that was going on with Hogan and Macho Man and the rest of the WWF.
When you keep something simplistic, storyline wise, and it's not too convoluted, it's easy to register and digest. You'll get the most out of the least 10 out of 10 times. That's what they did here. They pulled on the heartstrings. They made it personal. With the lust in your eye, Hogan, I see it. Yeah. Everything.
The editing of the tape, I love Elizabeth, and then they just cut it.
Yep.
So
that was gold, man. Simple, like God just said, just simple. Keep it simple.
Even it's very, I mean, even with like TV shows and movies, and when they try to subvert expectations just for subverting expectations and not because it's organically inclined into the storyline, then you lose everything in translation. And that has been done multiple times on many different facets of entertainment, whether it's movies, TV shows, short films, wrestling, especially where they're doing a swerve just because of a swerve.
Mhm.
It doesn't work. This progressed organically. It got registered with the fans. They made that emotional connection. And then when they connected, they took it away. And then you didn't know what was going to happen. And you're left on the edge of your seat, like any good story. And then Hogan Macho main event. Boom. It's very easy. It's almost like Cain and Abel, almost. You know what I mean? It's very simplistic, but it's not brain surgery or rocket science. It's pro wrestling. And all you have to do is find one small minuscule aspect of reality, milk it for all that's worth, and present it properly, and you'll hit a home run. Oh, by the way, how about those Mets, Mega?
I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it. Either you or Steve. I was waiting for it. It's all right. We'll just give you a little bit of shine in the beginning. But you know what's coming.
We're gonna do a baseball podcast next, talking shit about. Fuck the Mets, but still,
fuck the Mets.
Yeah. Fuck the Mets.
One last thing on your whole thing with the Mega Powers. You had Butch Reed was the fourth guy in the tournament, and also with the Mega Powers, Gorilla Monsoon said, "Can this be the forming of the madness in the Mania?" And that's how they built up the handshake, like you said. Then they went to the back and they did the whole, "Oh yeah, let's do this, come on, brother," But with Gorilla doing the whole setup, that's how they had the Mega Powers.
Other than Macho Man and Randy Savage, and I always said Randy Savage stood apart from the rest because of the way his character was developed. He felt like a human animal. We've seen this done before with Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper smacks Jimmy Snuka in the face with a coconut. Roddy Piper smashes Lou Albano with a gold record and beats the shit out of Cyndi Lauper. And then all of a sudden we love him because he gets into a feud with adorable Adrian Adonis. Like, you don't forget those things. But there really wasn't, even when Piper turned babyface and they didn't want to do it, they were very reluctant to be a team, but Hogan teamed with Piper at Madison Square Garden against Harley Race and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. They went, they did their work, and then Piper said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm out of here." I'm like, I don't get it. Is he heel or is he face? The handshake between Savage and Hogan was so much more different than Piper's babyface turn. And I've always looked at that because Piper was never a guy you would think would become babyface too. He had the instant heat with the kilt. And the same thing with Paul Orndorff. Paul Orndorff, one day he's a good guy, next day he's a bad guy. The guy was fucking bipolar. Randy Savage, though, extending his hand, not somebody saying, "Hey, brother, maybe you should calm it down. Hey, maybe you should think another way. Hey, maybe you should be a babyface." No, Savage recognizing that his ass got saved. Savage recognizing that in order for the fans to get behind him, he's got to make amends with the guy he's been chasing. Again, brilliant. There's a moment at that 1989 Royal Rumble where you start to see the dissension. You start to see the threads fall apart between Savage and Hogan. Of course, Hogan comes in there, clears house, starts throwing everybody over the top, throws Macho Man over the top too. I guess he had like 2 or 3 guys. He threw him over the top. Macho Man slid right back in the ring. He's like, "Motherfucker, what the fuck?" They spent the entire minute or minute and a half between the buzzer coming in, and he's all up in Hogan's grill. You ain't grabbing him by the fucking chin and shaking him around like he's turning again. It's going to be fucking nasty. And their match at WrestleMania 5, I don't think people give them enough credit. Because, Macho Man Randy Savage came into the WWE shooting for the top guy. But after you became friends, your best brothers, you become the Mega Powers for an entire year. You throw the lust. You throw the attack backstage on the main event where he's attacking him while Elizabeth is getting medical attention. That match at WrestleMania 5, nobody ever talks about it. It's like, just another Hogan Savage match. There was so much emotion going into that match. That is one of the top WrestleMania matches of all time. Mega, what's your thoughts?
So I'm gonna be the heel, right? I hated the WWF. Hated it.
Love it. I love you, Mega.
Because those are fucking kids.
Let's go.
Right? Which I don't lead into my moment, but I remember, the handshake, I'm gonna be another heel at heart, and I know I'm in the minority. Don't get at me. To this day, I don't see the lust that guys have for Randy Savage. I don't get it. I don't get it. Even back when I was a kid, I'm like, what's with this dude? He talks funny. His hair's fucked up. Like, what the fuck's wrong with this dude? Right? Loved his robes. And then when they won the Mega Powers, I'm like, that's cool. But who cares? I just didn't care. Right? And I hated Hogan. Very, very basic. I'm like, look at this dude. Like the red and yellow, when he did red and blue All-American stuff. You know, to say your prayers, each vibe was like, this is corny. I'm not watching. This is garbage. And I only watched the WWF because Georgia Championship Wrestling, the NWA, wasn't on TV. And I loved wrestling. Oh, let me just watch this nonsense. I would watch it. I'm gonna show my age, but I would watch it on Channel 9 Saturday night at midnight or 11 o'clock, whenever it was, just because I love wrestling. But I hated the WWF. I was like, I hate this. You said something earlier that sticks in my mind. That I actually like, oh shit, this is real. When when Piper, you know, hit Snooker with the coconut, right? I'm like, oh shit. Like, wow, like, okay, now we're getting like Georgia Championship Wrestling. This is real. And if they did, obviously, now looking back at it, they can't do stuff like that all the time. But if they did more stuff like that, I'd have been more of a fan. But it was too cartoonish for me, and you know, I just wasn't a fan. You know, I just like wrestling, so I'm gonna get my fix however I can get my fix. But when they formed the Superpowers, I was just like, so what? Don't care. A bigger moment for me, again, I know I'm in the minority, was when Dusty and Nikita tagged in the Crockett Cup and Nikita turned face. That to me trumps Savage and Hogan, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I mean, it's my own opinion. I know I'm in the minority, but that for me trumps Hogan and Savage by far.
You think Nikita was a bigger heel than Macho Man Randy Savage at that point?
100%.
You think so?
Oh,
Yeah.
the whole Russia thing. That's why.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, fuck.
We got to take it.
100%.
We got to take into account, and I'm gonna side with Mega here. I'll be his Tully Blanchard to his Ric Flair. I, even though grew up in Queens, and I watched WWF, and that's the first thing I saw. I preferred watching Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA. I used to watch it, the Power Pro on Channel 11 WPIX.
Wow.
Used to come out on Saturday mornings. My first match that I saw that made me want to be a wrestler was Flair Sting TV match. And the second match that I saw that I wanted me to be a wrestler was Flair versus Mike Rotundo for the TV title when he was in the Varsity Club, and he beat him under 10 minutes, got the TV title, and won $15,000 in cash, quote unquote, in a bag. You know, but point being is, it all depends on where your loyalty at the time lies and where you lived, because people down south didn't think WWF was bigger than the NWA, you know. So to them, Nikita Dusty was bigger than Hogan Macho. We all grew up in the tri-state area, so to us, Macho Hogan would be bigger than Nikita Dusty unless you were able to watch everything. And luckily, I had TBS, and 605 on the Superstation was fucking church for me. I used to watch that shit every Saturday, you know. So, you know, I'm with Mega, dude. That's a big moment too, and I would say it's on par with Macho and Hogan.
So I'll tell you this. So I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, and we didn't have pay cable. We had just the fucking 5 channels that whatever was on the TV. Yeah. But every now and then they were like, "Hey, should we bring cable to this area in Brooklyn? We're gonna give you a sample for like 2 weeks, and for those 2 weeks I get TBS." And I put it on. My father's like, "Where's Hogan?" I'm like, it's not Hogan." And I had only seen these guys and knew about them through the wrestling magazines. I'd run to the stands. I'd go grab Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and Inside Wrestling, Wrestling Eye. I was a big mark for the magazines just to learn more. I needed to consume as much wrestling as possible. So my father sees this. He goes, "Oh, these are the guys we want to go see at the Coliseum or at the Garden." I'm like, no. this is the real stuff. This is real wrestling.
That's not
I
that.
know what you mean.
That
That is, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Meg on this.
Mhm.
That isn't the first time I've heard that when they compared the NWA Crockett Promotions to WWF.
Yeah.
Also, when ECW was around, people were saying ECW was real wrestling
Mhm.
compared to WWF and WCW at the time because it was a lot more raw, a lot more in your face. The work was a lot more snug. So
Mhm.
when I first saw ECW in a pool hall at 12 o'clock on MSG, and I look up and I see Public Enemy fighting somebody, and they're just literally street fighting in the crowd. I'm like, what
Laying
the
it
hell
in,
is
yeah.
this? Yeah, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is legit. And I was a fan at the time, you know what I mean? But point being is just
Mhm.
I was like, wow. So yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It was very hokey.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make Mega pop real quick. When Moff and I, the very first time we wrestled for off of the Wild Samoa and WXW, we were subbing in for the Haas Brothers. Haas Brothers were supposed to make their debut for Pops at their big annual show, and they couldn't make it. WWE had called them, and so they told us, to go fill in for them. So we go and we show up, and it's a big star-studded event. They actually had drawn about probably like 5,000 to 10,000 somewhere in there because it was a free event, and like everybody in Allentown, Pennsylvania, would go to Pop shows, right? So we get told we're part of a battle royal, which we were cool with. I mean, we were only like 2 years in the business, so we were all about it. So they tell us, they were like, we know about you guys. We want you guys to be the last 4 in the battle royal. So okay, cool. So we go and we do our thing. We're beating people up. We're setting, doing what we got to do to set up the finish. We get eliminated. We go to the back. First person that we see is Nikita Koloff. So now, Moff and I are like popping hard because he comes up to us. He's like, you two, you have very strong presence. I like you guys, big boys, very big, and you look very, I forgot what he used, but he was like just saying how we look, monstrous, right? And he goes, let me tell you a little something about Nikita. Many years I am going around the world representing the USSR, and I travel the world now. I do my ministry, but to tell you the truth, I'm just a guy from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Moff and I were like, no.
There went the accent.
Just a guy from Minneapolis.
That's funny.
I love it.
Badass.
Love it.
And he's Kevin from Minnesota.
Dude, that's great. Well, this is a good transition to Mega's
Love it.
Mega's greatest moment or favorite childhood moment. So talk your shit about
So mine isn't like necessarily a match or really isn't a moment per se, right? It's just something that's etched in my memory, and it made me fall in love with wrestling, and not even fall in love, become addicted to it, right? I have a lasting image. Again, I was a Georgia Championship Wrestling guy. And the first time I laid eyes on the Road Warriors, right, before they were in the Legion of Doom with King Kong Bundy and Jake the Snake and the Spoiler. They came in, leather pants, chaps, the biker hat, and it was I don't remember who it was against. It was like pre-Mulkeys, but they beat the shit out of 2 guys in like 60 seconds. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, who are these guys, right? And then the one thing that's really etched in my mind is Hawk and Animal standing in the ring, and when they first started their face paint, and they just had the lines on their faces, and they had spiked spikes and shit, and they had Paul Ellering with the rolled up fucking piece of paper, and again beating the shit out of somebody, and I'm like, this is real. I love these guys. I want to be them. I remember going to school that Monday feeling invincible because the Road Warriors instilled in me this sense of like manhood, even though I was a little kid, right? And I just felt like a foot taller, 50 pounds heavier. I stood more upright, and I felt like they just gave me a lot of courage to face whatever I had to face with at school, whether it was people making fun of me because of my height, I stuttered back in the day, whatever it was. I just feel like I was invincible because of them. And I remember when my dad, my first live event was in White Plains, and my father got into a yelling match with Rene Goulet. If you guys remember that, did, right? I'll never forget this, right? Cursing back and forth. I remember saying to myself, my father couldn't do that to the Road Warriors because they kick his ass. And I always envied, Moff and Steve because they worked them, and I just that was like, I have an affinity for them. They were larger than life. Again, not cartoonish like WWF. These were like muscle-bound men that kicked ass. They didn't work 3 or 4 minutes with a jobber. They came in, kicked ass, and left, right? And I just felt like I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Not necessarily a wrestler, but I want to be men like them. Nobody fucks with them. They mean business. They're all serious, and I want to be like them. And I know, in shoot jobs, whatever, people say like I'm very serious all the time. It stems from them. I'm not taking any shit from anybody, and nobody's going to walk all over me or talk over me. And it's all because of the Road Warriors. So I feel like a little bit of me, they kind of like raised me a little bit. And I would just, they will always have a piece of my heart to the day I die. Always.
That's fantastic. That's a great story and very inspiring story, especially like you said, and for a big guy too, to be like, yo, they gave you more confidence. Like God gave you confidence in them fucking legs of yours and your height, but but for you to look at these two characters and what they meant to the business and how they were perceived by others, not just the fans, but their opponents. They're like, fuck, we working them tonight. All right, get the ice packs. But these guys, so when I had read about them in the magazines, obviously, and like I would catch glimpses of them, but never got to see their actual matches. By the time they got to WWE, not saying that they lost it, they were always bad motherfuckers, but they were watered down to what Vince wanted. And I never got to see the badasses that I had heard about in the NWA.
I was pissed because they called them the Legion of Doom. And I'm like, that's not the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom is them, King Kong Bundy, Jake the Snake, and the Spoiler. That's the Legion of Doom. I hate this WWF nonsense. They're like a Timu wrestling. I know Timu back then, but I'm like, they're not the Legion of Doom. That's wrong. Which added my, I won't say hatred for WWF, but strong dislike compared to the NWA, Georgia Championship Wrestling, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I be a heel 1 minute? Because I knew you shit on Macho Man Randy Savage.
Do not shit on Road Warriors.
So I'm just gonna say when I first saw them,
and Steve will actually hang up before I do.
I'm just saying when I first saw them in the magazines, and like you said, it wasn't with the spicy shit. They were wearing the leather and the hats, and I was like, why these guys look like they just left the Blue Oyster Bar from Police Academy? And I was just trying to understand. I thought maybe they were a gay tag team, but it's good.
That song's red in all of our brains, I think.
Papadon, you were there when we wrestled the Road Warriors, right?
Yeah, in JCW and in USA Pro.
You got to work
this? Yeah. So I can tell you this firsthand. As we're sitting there now, I'm nervous as hell because this is like the biggest match Moff and I ever had. We'd wrestled so many other teams, but this is the Road Warriors. You know what I mean? And they were well past their prime. They already did the Hawk fell off the Titantron angle, and this was their indie run. You know what I mean? And I still had the fear of God because it's Hawk and Animal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's pictures of us with them from that day. We look like babies next to them, right? Which is fine. I mean, they're the Road Warriors. I look like babies to them all day. But crazy thing, two things happened. When they first walked into the locker room, legit, all the air got sucked out. That's why I asked if Papadon was there. All the air got sucked out. As soon as they stepped into the room, they had their bag with their spikes for their shoulder pads because they had to screw them onto the shoulder pads. And when they dropped the bag, it sounded like the whole building was shaking because that's how heavy the spikes were. And I remember all of us, we all went, oh, right? And like, it was the crazy. Am I wrong, Jimmy? Papadon? I don't know who this Jimmy guy is. Papadon?
That is.
But like, it was the most insane nonsense. Just watching them walk in. Hey, what's up? Mike, I'm Joe. And we're like, oh my God, hi. You know what I mean? And then it was like, and then they talked to us, and I'm over here thinking, listen, if they treat us like jobbers, I mean, it's some fucking road warriors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They showed us so much respect and just like treated us like we'd been working with them for years. And it was the most insane thing that, you know, at that age, I was probably like 4 years in the business. I wasn't that long in. And just them treating us like that, I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. You take the young guys and you show them how it really works. So then we have our match, and we're beating them up. They actually, Hawk was the one. Guys, fuck me up. It's all right. Don't worry about it. And Moff and I are like, okay. So at one point, Moff chops the shit out of Hawk. And when I say chops him, his chest split open. So Hawk was like, I fucking love it. It's great. So I grab Hawk in a fucking leg lock, and we're just chilling, buying some time. And Hawk, with the whole crowd, able to hear, hey, kid, make sure when we're done, I get your phone number. I'm going to get you guys a booking with us in Florida. And the whole And then what ends up happening is, to the day that both of them pass, I stayed in contact with them. They always looked out for us, and always gave me great advice. And, you know, it's crazy that I was cool with the Road Warriors.
That's awesome. What a great story.
That's awesome.
That's great. Wow.
Toddy D, you got memories?
Oh, tons of memories. I'll keep it short, though. So like all you guys, I'm from the East Coast. Big WWF fan back in the day, but I wanted a taste of more wrestling. So all I had was Lucha Libre, Channel 47, Midnight Rider versus Kevin Sullivan, or the Purple Haze. So that was some shit. It was all poltergeist static, but I was able to, like, you know, look and watch and enjoy. But like you, DieHard, I would grab the magazines monthly and read up on all the other feds, AWA, NWA, Mid-South, Georgia, etc. So there was this guy I saw in WCCW called Dingo Warrior. I'm like, this guy is fucking jacked. He should be in WWF. So I started reading the magazines and following. So then, lo and behold, he enters WWF. I think just at the time, I think he was the Dingo Ultimate Warrior. It was like a name combo. And then they shortened it down to Ultimate Warrior. So at the time, you know, I'm a big Hogan mark, like most people. But like Mega said, that's all we had to watch. So, you know, I was trying to be a fan, big Hogan fan. But now, as the Warrior entered, I had long brown hair back in the day, Metallica fan. I'm watching this guy wrestle, and I'm kind of like relating myself to him. But unlike him, I'm about 120 pounds, like Piper would say, including pimples. But he was my guy. So as his guy started progressing, we go to the Royal Rumble in 1990, and now him and Hogan, they're in this battle royal together in the Royal Rumble. And I'm thinking to myself, shit, up to this point, back then we said good guy versus bad guy before we knew what a heel and a face was. I'm thinking to myself, can there be a possibility that a good guy and a good guy can lock up into the Royal Rumble and beat the shit out of each other? Lo and behold, they bang into each other. They do the cross rope deal, double clothesline, down on the mat. I'm fucking marking out, popping hard. I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, we got a possible feud here with two good guys. Impossible. Fast forward, Saturday night's main event. They tag in a match against Mr. Perfect and the Genius, Lanny Poffo. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're going to be a tag team, probably win the straps, have a short run, babyface tag team. Okay, I'm on board. I'll get into it. Lo and behold, during the match, there's some kind of bullshit that happens. They bang into each other. Warrior clotheslines Hogan. He goes down. He's doing the Warrior shake, and he's shaking him, smacking him around. And of course, Hogan with his ego, you know, that doesn't work for me, brother. He gets up, gets pissed off, and now they're pushing and shoving each other. And I'm thinking to myself, as they're banging head to head, I'm saying to myself, are we going to get two good guys going against each other at WrestleMania? Impossible. I refuse to believe it. Like you were saying earlier with Hogan and Savage, Savage is turning babyface. I don't believe it. Well, same as me. I said to myself, there's no way Hogan's going to be a heel. And I can't see the Warrior turning heel. He just, started getting big. IC champ. I'm like, okay, I'll buy into it. Lo and behold, we have WrestleMania 6 in the Toronto Skydome. Now, if you guys remember in the crowd, you had one guy with a big, huge color pick of the Ultimate Warrior. And on the other side, you had Hogan. So this crowd is split 50-50. And I'll never forget it because at the time, I'm transitioning more into a fucking Warrior fan than a Hogan fan. He's like yesterday's news. So we're at my buddy's house in Brooklyn. All the guys there are pulling for the Warrior, big Warrior marks out of nowhere. We went from the red and yellow to the neon. And there was one guy at the pay-per-view, my buddy's little brother, still a Hogan mark. So throughout the whole match, we're beating the shit out of this poor little kid, fucking shaking him, smacking him around, having a great time. And he's crying like a little bitch. No, Hogan's going to win. When Hogan went for that fucking leg drop, I said, listen, motherfucker, he's going to miss that fucking leg. Warrior's splashing his ass and he's going over. And my friends were like, Todd, you're fucking dreaming. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Watch. Sure enough, as you guys know, Warrior goes over, new champion, holds both straps up on the turnbuckle. My one fucking thing that I hated about it was, why did the Warrior have to drop the IC title? He should have been a dual champion the way they do today, like in NXT. You have the females that have dual champions. I feel he should have ran for a while with both belts, make him stronger. Then eventually, either, surrender the IC title or lose it and then have a tournament, something, make it more interesting. But one of my greatest memories was when the Warrior and Hogan locked up and went head to head. Obviously, we know that Warrior couldn't cut the mustard. Hogan had to come back, reclaim his fucking tier until 7, 8 in WrestleMania 9, and then he hit the high road. But for me, Warrior Hogan was a great memory, and I think the best memory about it was we beat the shit out of my friend's little brother during the match. That's like an indelible mark, man. Poor bastard crying like a bitch, and we just fucked him up the whole time.
You talk about that Royal Rumble moment in 1990 where they're in the ring, and I'm a big fan of this. When I was booking for Cyberspace, I remember we had done this our own version of a Royal Rumble, and I said, right, I'm going to steal what they did in 89 where Axe and Smash came in first, and I did it with the Maximos.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. And
they couldn't fucking figure it out. I'm like, you didn't see the fucking Rumble guy? Like, so, but I remember in 90 when that moment happened, if you really look at that tape, that was the first year where they actually let the managers come to the ringside area. Right. So like the managers would come down and they'd watch their guy in the ring. And I know Heenan was there. I think Slick was there. There's some referees on the outside to make sure the feet hit the ground. And then the people in the first 2-3 rows, the minute that those two are the last two in the ring, the whole fucking place freezes. Everybody's just focused on that. It's almost like everybody outside from the paying fans, the workers, the referees, the managers were like, oh, I got to watch this. This is a special moment. And like you said, they did the crisscross, they did the clothesline. I was like, okay, that's about as far as it's going to go.
Right.
And when they had that little that head-to-head confrontation at Saturday night's main event, I'm thinking, you got to turn the Warrior heel, right? There's no way you're going to turn Hogan heel. When they go in babyface versus babyface, title for title, one man's going to walk out there with 2 straps. Yes. Fuck, it's different. It's so different. And
that's why it lasted.
If you look back at if you look back at the history of who Hogan
all right,
faced,
easy, don't get too excited.
At those previous WrestleManias, you're like, all right, who could he possibly wrestle now? Like the roster wasn't stacked. He had already done the blow off with Mr. Perfect. So like, who next? And to get a good guy, the second guy, the Ultimate Warrior, the IC champion, it's fucking genius. And obviously, you think that, he's going to have to put Hogan over and Hogan's going to win the belt. I'm like, oh, no, brother, take your belt back because I already got the top belt. What the fuck am I going to do with this one? But yeah, man.
He was so blown up at the end, man. He was barely able to even gorilla press him.
They kicked out of each other's finish. He misses that leg drop. And it's like, whoa.
One of the few clean wins, yeah.
The world stopped.
Losses, rather, with Hogan, yeah.
Meg, I know how much you hate Hogan and Warrior, so
I got a question for King Meg. I want to ask King Meg a question.
Yeah,
because you were a big fan of the Road Warriors, and so was I. What was your take when Demolition debuted, and also the Power?
Oh God!
Probably the same as mine.
Same man.
Same. I wanted to see that look.
Well, you know what's
Great
funny?
Question.
What's funny was, for some reason, I'm weird, right? But I was a big Crusher Khrushchev mark, right?
Okay,
I see Demolition. I'm like, what are these fake ass Road Warriors? Yet another reason to despise the WWF. Right? Like this is fake stuff, right?
Mm.
There was a match. I forgot who they worked, but he wore his knee pad to cover up his tattoo, so
Yep.
people wouldn't know that it was Crusher Khrushchev.
Mhm.
And somebody pulled the knee pad down, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Crusher Khrushchev, right? Then
Same.
I'm like,
Yeah.
they're even real fake. Like it just everything they did and everything I watched added to my high disdain for the WWF. And the Hogan Warrior thing, I despise Ultimate Warrior, especially when they changed the color of the IC strap. I'm like, what?
That part bothered me too.
Fake.
The yellow.
Like, the NWA would never do that. They're real. Granted, the TV towel was red, which I thought was hot. I thought the red strap was hot, but yellow. And I think they did green at some point, or like baby.
Yeah, they
blue.
did that to match the neon
Blue.
straps, I think, on the arms and just
Like,
make
I
it all
get
color
it
coordinated. He looked like
now.
a fucking Skittle. I mean, it was like
Pistachio and
crazy.
green or some shit he had.
Yeah, I get it now from a marketing standpoint. It makes all sense in the world. But back then, when I'm a kid, I'm like, this is fake. Like, and you're adding to the fakeness. Click.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the NWA.
To add your Crusher Khrushchev with Demolition, when I saw Axe and I heard him speak, I said, "That's the fucking Masked Superstar." I mean, I got it right away.
Right away.
I said, "Wow, we talk about a total repackage," you know?
Yep.
But let's give his devil his due. Like only with the Masked Superstar with Bill Eadie, he did wrestle differently as Masked Superstar.
He did.
And
Oh, he
as-
did.
So
did.
unless you were really knee deep into the business and smartened up, you wouldn't know.
Because I loved Masked Superstar. Loved him. And then I always wondered,
Me too.
right, how like the Masked Superstar had like stars, right? I think it had 5 stars. And then what was the guy? He had 1 star on his mask.
Super Destroyer.
Super Destroyer, yeah. Was Super Destroyer? Probably, yeah. And I'm like, should the Masked Superstar have 1 star and the other dude have like 5 stars? It was like
He's the main, right? He's the main star, right?
I'm like, huh? Yeah, I was a weird kid. Weird kid. I loved NWA and Georgia Championship Wrestling. Loved it.
So do I. So, Mega, how did you feel about this moment? Because this moment stood out in my mind many, many, many moons ago. 6-man tag. The Road Warriors put a spike in Dusty's eye.
Loved it.
Mm.
You loved it.
Loved it. Because it was
Oh, it was real. Yeah, of course.
real. I'm like, yo. You know, Dusty gigged all the time, but I was just like, yo, this is crazy. Look at what they're doing. You know, I don't have freaking Russell's popping out of eggs like WWF did. Like, I got guys like, you know, blinding people with a spike. I'm just like, this is just like, it really just like, they just grabbed my attention and they held it and they kept it. Whereas felt like WWF, they like wanted to like shy away from me, and with all the cartoony stuff and like everything they did, I just hated it. But the spike thing was like loved it.
The spike, and also I think the Horsemen, when they were feuding with Steamboat, they fucking took like sandpaper and they fucking grained it in his face to make it look even worse than what it was. And back then, you know, if one guy went into a store, like Ric Flair said he was going to buy beer one day, Steamboat was in the area and he said he had to fucking leave because they didn't want to be seen in the same, you know, like bodega, wherever they were getting the beer.
Yeah.
Because back then, you know, kayfabe was protected. And I just wish it was like that today. I mean, now they forget the curtain's like jerked all the way back. Now
So
they got a
real-
fucking show coming out, WWE, behind the curtain.
I'm not gonna watch that. So real
That's
quick,
disgusting. I refuse to watch that as well.
And then like Steve and Jimmy go. So NWA came to Mount Vernon. I forgot what year it was. I had no idea what the year was, right? 80 something, right? And we're walking, me and my 2 friends are walking, right? And this is where my heart was broken. I saw Dusty and Tully arrive in the same car with Baby Doll. And I'm like, oh no. So I get to the stands, right? Tully walks in, and then 5 minutes later, Dusty walks in by himself. I'm like, man, they came together.
Heartbreaker, like Sheik and
I
Doug.
was so heartbroken. I'm like, really? And I was just like, okay, whatever. But I would that kind of broke my heart.
So that killed the magic for you. But did you know beforehand? You knew it was a work beforehand?
So I was watching. So I used to record WWF Madison Square Garden like every month, right? So I used to watch it, and we had to go to my grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. So I recorded it on VHS, and then we watched it when we got there to my grandma's house. So we're watching it, and Piper worked somebody. I don't know who it was. Hogan. I don't know who it was. And he was being taken out on a stretcher. And my father goes, "Look at him smiling. He's not hurt. He's smiling." And I remember saying to myself, "No, he's not." But thinking to myself, "Yeah, he is smiling. He's not hurt."
Mm-hmm.
That broke my heart too. That was really the first time. And then when I saw Dusty and Tully, like I kind of had an idea, but I still loved it. I was still addicted, still hooked, still loved it. And didn't make a difference. To me, it was still more real than the WWF. Because I never thought that the Jim Crockett Promotions was trying to like fool me, trick me, or like make me feel stupid. You know, like I'm not a dumb kid, right? And I felt the WWF was just like always trying to pull the wool over my eyes, like, and I just never liked it.
They did a lot of lying. I mean, they said at WrestleMania 3 was the first time that Hogan slammed Andre, which we all know is bullshit. They covered up a lot of shit.
Yeah,
a lot of guys slammed, Andre. Besides Hogan at Shea Stadium, you had fucking Harley Race and other people who slammed Kamala, a bunch of them.
Yeah, but to be fair, let's face facts. They got to sell out an arena, 100,000 people.
Right.
So again, simplicity is the best tool to use to build this. If they say, you know what, only 5 men slammed Andre, no one's gonna pay to fucking see Hogan slam Andre WrestleMania 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is
No one's
why.
want to see the 6th.
Exactly. That is
Right.
why I am a firm believer that you have to talk in sound bites. I know Mega don't believe me, but I got to talk in sound bites, right? And reason because you said Monsoon said the madness meets the mania. Boom.
Right.
Last thing he says, it sticks in your mind. When Andre turned on Piper's Pit, the last thing that was said in that segment was Piper when he looks down at Hogan and goes, You're bleeding.
You're bleeding.
Boom.
bleeding.
Done. That's the last thing you remember.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's very important to leave that lasting effect. You know what I'm saying? So
Tell us about what left a lasting effect on you. What
Good
was
segue.
Yeah, there you
go. There's many moments, man. Like I mentioned a couple, Sting Flair, the Varsity Club with Rotundo Sting, the Horseman with the fucking with the spike. I mean, not the Horseman. I mean, LOD with the spike in Dusty's eye. The coconut with Piper. The bell with Steamboat's throat with Macho. The number one thing I'm gonna pick is different. What I'm gonna say now, but I'm just gonna harp on this. 1989 is one of the greatest years of professional wrestling because in NWA you had Ric Flair versus Steamboat in 3 of the greatest matches of all time, followed by one of the greatest rivalries of all time, Ric Flair and Terry Funk. And those matches were fucking legendary too. And those 2 feuds that lasted all year for Rick, in my opinion, was probably Ric Flair's greatest year because he was on top of the world, bro. And just those moments and those matches they just still stick into my mind. You know what I'm saying? But the moment I'm going to pick, it's a little bit more into the future, was the formation of the NWO, because not only am I such a big fucking NWO mark, huge, but around the early 90s, I kind of fell out of wrestling. I came back into wrestling around maybe 94, 95, and I was always an NWA guy, like I was telling before. So I've ventured more to WCW when it was WCW. So when I'm watching the cruiserweights come on board, and I'm watching Benoit, Malenko, Saturn, Finlay, Regal, Jericho, those are the guys I patterned my style after, especially Finlay and Regal and Benoit and Malenko and Guerrero, all the mid-carders in WCW, the workhorses. That's why I patterned them. So those are the guys that stuck out to me a lot. But Scott Hall, one of the greatest big men of all time that never held the fucking heavyweight title. When he came on the scene, and then Kevin Nash came on the scene, and then Hogan turned, I remember to this day, I'm watching the pay-per-view. My father let me get it. When my brother and I were surprised. We watching it, and as Hogan comes to the ring, I go to my brother, he's gonna turn, he's gonna be the third man. No way, no way. He turns, we're jumping up and down, screaming in the kitchen, yeah, yeah. My father goes, you fucking idiots, it's fake, you know, what are you doing? You know, my father wasn't a big wrestling fan. Even when we were young and we'd watch Saturday Night's Main Event, he would say, oh, it's hokey bullshit, it's fake, right? But point being is we're popping huge for it. And obviously, you saw the reaction of the live crowd, you know, with the garbage and everything, and then him telling everybody to stick it. It was the Darth Vader turn of professional wrestling. And Hogan, in a matter of 24 hours, rejuvenated his career to have another run. So, in my opinion, not only changed the business contractually for a lot of the boys with guaranteed money and all that stuff, not only did it add competition and made the Monday Night Wars, but it also changed the business because it became more reality based. You know what I mean? It wasn't so hokey, like Mega says, where we had garbage men versus fucking, you know, golfers versus fucking whatever. It was Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan who turned, and then slowly and surely they started putting people. Was it perfect? Not by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think Eric Bischoff should have ever been in the NWO after he got power bombed. If he never got power bombed, cool. I don't think the Giant should ever joined after they beat him and then joining back and forth. I mean, Paul Orndorff was the original flip flopper before Big Show, so whatever. But point being is, just to this day, it still has an impact because, I mean, look, the NFO podcast, the logo itself, stolen from the NWO. You know what I mean? And the fact that people, what is it? We're 2025, so it's 1996. That's freaking 29 years later, almost 30 years. Are still rocking NWO shirts. I still rock NWO shirts. I got NWO shorts. I got an NWO flag. You know what I'm saying? So it has a very lasting impact because let's face it, in the 90s, no one is wearing wrestler shirts from the 60s. You know what I mean? And in the 80s, no one's rocking shirts from the 50s or whatever the case may be. Maybe they didn't exist, but the point being is, even if they did, I don't think it would have had the impact that storyline had. And that was one of the greatest storylines of all time until Sting versus Hogan, and that botch finish just fucking killed it all.
Killed it.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my moment, man.
I'm gonna give you two things on that real quick. One, you say the Sting Hogan match. The next day at Monday Nitro was my first day in WCW. I had to fly out to it was either Washington or Baltimore to go sign my contract over there. And I was a Tuesday voice on the NWO hotline with Mark Madden, Mean Gene, and a couple other dudes and shit like that.
Nice.
But you mentioned the formation of the NWO. And the formation actually happened at Bash of the Beach when Hogan was revealed as the third man.
Yep.
Do you think that was the night that clicked for you, or was it the night that Scott Hall walked down and interrupted Monday Nitro, and you're like, what the fuck's going on here?
I would say the turn for Hogan solidified it.
Okay.
Because everybody everybody was trying to figure out who this third man was. Now, you got to understand a couple of things. And it's very, it's funny, they show this in movies, how people go back in history and they have something like that's here, but if they move it over 6 inches, automatically the timeline gets shifted to another fucking parallel timeline. I am very, very convinced that if Hogan never turned and they went with the original plan with Sting, it wouldn't have the impact.
Would have been
as much as I love Sting, I just think Hogan turning was a fresh coat of paint on Hogan, but also he's an ex-WWE guy. So that you had the roots within that played into the storyline. Minor things. Triple H taking the brunt of the curtain call and staying with WWE. If he would have left and went to WCW and joined the NWO, would have been big for him at the moment, but it wouldn't be where he is right now. The business wouldn't be where it is right now. If Conan didn't come to the United States and bring the luchadors here, the business would not be where it is right now.
Mhm.
So and I always say this. I think Conan should be in the Hall of Fame. His impact of what on this business is not recognized enough. And same thing with Triple H. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame, but his impact on the business, if he would have shifted and said, you know what, Vince, you're going to bury me to the Warrior. You're going to bury me here. You buried me to Ahmed Johnson. I'm leaving. I'm out. I'm going to go join fucking Kevin. Who knows? Who knows where WCW would have been? Because then who would have been left? Shawn Michaels, who was home nursing his quote-unquote back and his demons. He would have jumped to WCW because his boys were there. And then who would have known what happened? The entire fucking clique as the NWO,
So
Who knows?
in real life, here's a factor that I don't think people take into account. This happened in 1996, right? I was there the night of the curtain call. As a matter of fact, I just got a fucking settlement with Netflix because they used my photographs from the night of the curtain call. But I was there that night, and I was like, wow, something here is different. I mean, I have never heard Madison Square Garden erupt the way it did when those guys took to their post. And people are like, oh my God. And fucking this guy came out and Scott Hall came out. And oh my God, they're hugging and they're losing it. The thing is, earlier that night, Razor Ramon wrestled Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And the fans are cheering, you sold out. You sold out. And he's like this. The money. It's the money, right? They knew Kevin Nash did the same fucking thing. But why? Because it was the infancy and the birth of the internet. Now we started learning about people's contracts, people jumping ship. They already knew that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were going to WCW, but when they arrived in WCW, it's like, is it Razor and Diesel? Like, they have no name. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Invasion? What's going on? Right.
Here's a funny story. When Kevin Nash debuted, the crowd in WCW start chanting Diesel, Diesel, and you can hear it through TV. They try to cover it up. The announcers, Tony Schiavone goes, Brain, they're chanting Weasel, Weasel, Weasel.
Yep.
And I went, oh, this guy's clever. I was like, that's a try. Ah, nice. Even though we know they're not saying Weasel. You know what I mean? Or even one time when I popped huge, Scott Hall comes out and he had some coke residue on his nose or something. And then fucking Larry, what's his living legend? Larry Zbyszko goes, yo, man, you got some stuff, your white stuff on your nose. Look at you partying with Hogan in the back. I was like, whoa, what did he just say?
That's crazy.
Shit like that, just that flew under the radar. But, dude, I agree with you. And that's why kayfabe can't be around today because people will be like, you know what? You're trying to insult our intelligence. We have the means, we have the tools to see past the curtain. So
we're all privy to it now. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
I got a 2-part question for you, Papadon. With the NWO, do you feel when Hogan was coming out, you said to your dad, oh, this is the third guy. When Bobby Heenan said, but is he the third man? Do you feel that he ruined it for the surprise?
No.
Really?
I don't think he listen to me, whatever Bobby Heenan said. Did it really?
Yeah.
You really thought he was coming to make the stave?
I was like, damn it. Son.
The way he was walking to the ring is what gave it away.
He was walking
there was no urgency to save the guys. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm back.
Well, once he went to the turnbuckle like this and he stopped, I said, he's fucking dropping a leg on Savage.
Yep.
But I just thought it was fucked up what Bobby Heenan did. I didn't, well, not that he ruined it, but he shouldn't have said that.
Well, I don't know. Because put it this way, because of his walk, maybe he said it to try to do a Jedi mind trick, a reverse Jedi mind trick here, because you see Hogan, his boys are getting beat up, the good guys are getting beat up, and he's just fucking gingerly walking to the ring in his cowboy boots. And then you're saying to yourself, why is he taking so fucking long? When Heenan says that, maybe he says, there's no way he's going to turn because he just said it. They would have ruined it. So this way, when he does do it, you know what I mean? There's many different avenues, but at the end of the day, Hogan needed it because Hogan was stale to the point where they were booing him out the building.
But he didn't save himself though. He said Hulk Hogan has betrayed WCW. That's like a soundbite to this day. My microphone up.
So I'm gonna throw some little business at you guys. So I loved it. I was a big NWO mark. Love the Wolfpack though. Love it. Love the Wolfpack, right? But Eric Bischoff and whoever. The NWO they were so big that they destroyed WCW. So when I was at Tops, right, we had a WCW license, right? They officially, I know people think, they kind of did it storyline wise, blah blah blah. But they legit turned their logo from WCW to WCW/NWO.
Yep.
Everything had to be branded that way.
Smart.
The contract, it wasn't. I hated it because we didn't have Alex Rodriguez for 4 or 5 years for tops, right? We didn't have him in 07, I think, and we made millions of dollars, right? Nobody is bigger than the company. Nobody's bigger than the brand. They made the NWO a gimmick. They made that bigger than the actual company. And that was the beginning of their downfall. And back then, I'm like, why are they doing this? Why? NWO isn't a company. It's a storyline. And they're making it as big or bigger than the actual company. This place, and I told myself then, they're going to be out of business in 5 years.
Okay.
They gave them their own pay-per-view.
I think Papadon's going to say exactly what I'm saying, but go ahead, brother.
I'm going to say this. Every good hero needs
Yeah,
a good villain.
Absolutely.
Hold on.
Not
You
what I was
gotta,
going to say.
hold on. To fight from underneath. So if these guys are invading in the company and they're saying they're going to destroy the company and take over, right? Then, and especially if they're doing this reality-based wrestling to where the cops are getting called because they lawn darted Rey Mysterio in another great moment that lives in infamy, you know what I'm saying, and all that stuff, and the cops are getting called because of the baseball bats and all this stuff, then perception's reality. And if they give enough leeway to where they're not going to fully commit to the gimmick, then the WWF would be like, you know what? If this was real, all their contracts, all their promotional stuff would say WCW, NWO. If it only says WCW, it's fictitious storyline. Don't fall for it, people. And they would, and I mean, WCW was hanging on by a string then. They would have done it. So they needed to do that to keep the image up because reality. The reason why the NWO failed, and I'll tell you why, is because they built it up so much to the point where they didn't kill off WCW to the point where it needed to fight from underneath rock bottom to blow that comeback. Yeah. You can't be half pregnant in anything you do. Either you commit 100% or you don't.
Great point.
The NWO, it came up to a certain point. He shouldn't have lost the belt to Luger, even though it was a great match. The first person he should have lost it to Sting, right? Sting, he lost to Sting. Then Hogan gets booted out of the fucking NWO because he dropped the ball. Now there's a kink in the armor. Now WCW can blow a comeback behind with Sting. 6 months go by. They're fighting back and forth. WCW needs a save. Who comes back? The red and yellow. Boom. And he comes on WCW size. Forgive me for my sins, Father. Whatever bullshit. And now you have something where WCW can kill the NWO because now, or you bring Goldberg in, you know what I'm saying? And Goldberg can help him, you know, whatever, kill the NWO. But the point is, they didn't do it. The execution of the storyline was not to the point where there was a good ending. Act 3, it all fell apart.
I agree. So you got to remember when Nitro first started, Eric Bischoff's goal was to put WWE out of business. So he's blowing match finishes on there. He's telling, don't turn to the channel. And he's talking shit about the competitors. When they started the NWO, you had to believe that, all right, fuck WWE. They're trying to put us out of business. Now the NWO is trying to rebrand themselves as them. We may not be WCW. Tomorrow we may be NWO working for Eric Bischoff under this new regime. So by committing, like you said, Papadon, to all the marketing material, especially like the trading cards and having, all right, look, they haven't taken it yet, but there's a possibility. We go both ways, WCW and NWO. It was a genius marketing idea. But like you said, there was no definitive blow-off. The match with Hogan and Sting, all it really did was start showing the king in the armor. But once you expanded to the Wolfpack, that's what killed it. Because now all the cool guys from the NWO, the black and white, went to the black and the red. And now you got a bunch of jabronis. You got fucking Horace Hogan and not the Scott Norton's jabroni. I'm just saying, but he wasn't selling out.
Everybody and their mother, right?
Everybody was there.
They actually killed their own creativity. We got lazy. Well, they got lazy.
Of course.
You have to get somebody over. Always put them in the NWO. And
you lost the fear. You lost the fear of losing the company.
Right. But my thing is, my whole point was, at the end of the day, it is a wrestling storyline. We got a business to run. don't compromise the fucking business. Right? There is a line to it. And when you start changing, when you start I'm looking at this from straight business. I'm not a wrestling guy. I'm an executive at whatever company, and you're changing your legal line. The legal line was changed. We're going to actually change our name to WCW NWO. No.
I disagree.
Just like Vince. Vince was always at, no pun intended, the head of the table. Vince was it. That was it. Nothing gets past Vince or above Vince. That should have been the same way with WCW. At the end of the day, this is storyline. We are World Championship fucking wrestling, right? Yeah. The NWO is a storyline, and they are employees of WCW. When it gets out to the real world, there is no NWO. It's WCW. Now, we'll gimmick it as much as possible, but when you have lawyers drawing up contracts with other billion-dollar companies, we are World Championship Wrestling. Leave the gimmick on TV, and that's it.
I disagree.
You got to change your branding.
I'm looking at it as I'm protecting my asset. Like nothing is bigger than Pepsi. I don't care how big fucking Sprite gets or Mountain Dew. Nothing is bigger than Pepsi. That's it.
But look at acquisitions at that time. AOL, Time Warner.
One small thing. It's kind of like Coke. Or we're gonna do New Coke that fucked Coke up.
Oh yeah, the 80s.
You want to change the formula? Go ahead. Don't brand it New Coke. You're messing with the brand.
Yeah, but the WCW brand. Hold on, but the WCW brand was always second fiddle, and it was always corny compared to the WWF from a not wrestling perspective, but a comparative year. It's like comparing Coca-Cola to RC Cola that you get at fucking Key Food at the end of the fucking aisle.
That far, Jesus.
No, seriously.
RC Cola.
You got the fucking Shockmaster. You got the fucking Shockmaster, and that's a big deal in fucking. You know what I'm saying? You're making fun of Gobbledygooker, but you know what I'm saying? We also got the Shockmaster, and that was a big deal. And he fell on his arse. You know what I'm saying? Like, so point
that's
is
when
that
WCW was a wrestling company.
It was a rebranding opportunity. The NWO logo itself and the name itself carried more weight than WCW.
So what they should have done,
that to me is the problem. That's a problem.
It's not a problem.
Don't rebrand. Don't rebrand. It's kind of like it's. I know this is kind of like another great comparison, but it's like the Redskins and the Commanders. The fuck is a commander? Like we're the Washington Redskins. Now we're the Commanders. Don't force a rebrand where you don't have to.
Yeah, listen.
And I just think that we're going to build up this gimmick company and put it on par with our real company.
Okay, let me ask you this, Mega. Okay,
the NWO would not last for 30 years. It's not a wrestling company.
But
it's a faction. It would be different if ECW came in, right? Oh, they're another company. The ECW is going to come over, right? If they were on a larger scale, and we're going to take over WCW, and we're going to buy WCW, right? Then we rebrand. But at the core, the NWO was always a faction. It wasn't a company, and that's the problem I have with it.
Listen, I see your point of view, and from your perspective, you're 100% right. But what I'm telling you is, when you go for a tryout, all right, you got to look your best. You got to dress your best. You have to have the proper gear. You know what I'm saying? If you go to the tryout, so before you get to that tryout, you're going to try to eliminate all the negatives, right? So this way, when the agents look at you, they don't say, hey, kid, hit the gym. Hey, kid, get a tan. Hey, kid, get some real gear. If you knock out all the negatives, they have nothing they can pick at you, and all they can focus on is the positives. So when you're at war and you have fucking two factions, WCW and WWF, and at one point WCW is whipping its ass to the point where it's like Derek said, it's giving away the finishes because it was pre-taped and it wasn't Raw versus Nitro Live on Live yet. And WWF is losing fucking money out of its ass. They're going to do whatever it takes to try to counterbalance or counteract or counter-strike WCW. So if WCW, if they find out that if their legal team finds out that all their documents still say WCW and it doesn't say NWO, they would showcase that on their show saying, see, it's a storyline. They all work with WCW. Then it would fucking give the people that, oh yeah, they would smarten them up to the point where they stop watching that because they realize it's bullshit. So they're trying to cover their ass so they don't fall for that. And that's why all the legal documents, that's what I'm saying. You can't be half pregnant. Do it. But they should. The problem is the storyline itself wasn't executed properly to where the NWO it was NWO Thunder, NWO Nitro, not WCW/NWO, to the point where they took over and they needed that one fucking last hope, that Luke Skywalker, to come over and topple the fucking empire. You're laughing, but it's true.
No, I'm telling you, the Star Wars references. That's why we're laughing.
So that's a good transition when you're talking about brands cross-pollinating, when you're taking somebody else's IP property and trying to make a buck off it and trying to swerve the fans, especially when it boils down to who the real world champion is. So I'm going to pass it off to Steve Monsta Mack. Tell us about your moment. So
growing up in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, yes, I'm not really from Bed-Stuy, do or die Brooklyn. I'm sorry to break your guys' hearts. Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. My cousin Loki, he and I grew up about 10 blocks away from each other. His father was instrumental in becoming, my gateway into pro wrestling. I've been watching wrestling since '83, and I can clearly remember around the same time watching the Rocky movies, especially Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, at the same time that I was watching pro wrestling. Yes, trust me, as soon as I saw the shirt, Derek, I popped huge. So with that, along with all of us here, it was before Brooklyn had cable where we were at, although if you had an antenna, you could pick up HBO and certain channels. I won't say illegally, but like very bootleggish. And between that and regular TV, I would watch WWE or WWF, Carlos Colon's promotion in Puerto Rico. I would watch, Georgia on WPIX from time to time when I was able to catch it and they would put it on. I'd be like, oh my God, this is great. So I knew, and at the time, everybody read magazines. You got all your information. It might be a month or two late, but you got all your information from the magazines. And at the time, I could clearly remember it was always NWA versus WWF. And it was always Hogan versus Ric Flair over which one was the better champion, who was the bigger star, who was the better wrestler, whatever it was, they always compared them. So I can remember almost every Saturday, every Friday night, I'd go to my uncle's house. Me and Key would watch, play video games or whatever, watch TV because it was Friday night. We could stay up late. We thought we were great. And then, the next morning we'd have some breakfast, watch wrestling, go out, ride our bikes, 6:05, catch TBS, and then go back out, until 10 o'clock, come home, and that was our day. I mean, we were kids. This was what we did in the 80s and the 90s. And I remember the one morning I wasn't at Key's house. I'm watching Superstars, and the end of the show, whatever the match was before happens. It was the main event, and they cut to Vince and Bobby the Brain, or it might have been Gorilla, I'm sorry. And out of nowhere, he pulls the massive dome title, the big gold that Ric Flair had crafted just for him. And I picked up my phone. I said, oh my God, Key, you got call him by his real name. I was like, you have to put it on right now. Please look. And we were both like, oh, and like I could clearly hear him and my uncle. Oh, we were losing our minds. And then Bobby the Brain Heenan says, comparing this title to the title that Hulk Hogan holds is like comparing ice cream to horse manure. And we were like,
Yeah,
all over.
Yeah, that was awesome.
He's all
yeah, that was great.
We were losing our goddamn minds. And the best part was it was an absolute cliffhanger because as soon as he pulls the belt out and hits that line, then it's like, we got to go, folks. And we were just like, no, wait. And it was like, it changed everything because the era of dream matches hadn't, in the 70s, you had the NWA versus WWF, and you had New Japan come through, and All Japan, and you had Puerto Rico and Texas. Everybody mixed up at the Garden or whatever it was, but I wasn't around, so I didn't know about this. So when I'm getting this first taste, it's like the dream matches start from there. Because then that leads to Demolition and the Road Warriors. The Powers of Pain are coming through. You got them against the Rockers. You had Road Warriors teaming up with the Ultimate Warrior. And like all of this stuff happens because Ric Flair shows up on WWE TV. And yes, like I said, there was stuff happening before it, but Ric Flair showing up is what changed everything. Because then it became, not only were they acknowledging that there was other companies outside of WWE, you also had the ability to, what happens if Sting shows up to WWF? I was talking to my boy Guapo today. We were like, what happens if Magnum TA doesn't get into an accident and he shows up on WWE TV? Because Dusty eventually leaves NWA. He's going to take Magnum TA if he's walking. You know what I mean? What happens if Magnum TA shows up and they have to shave his mustache because Vince doesn't like the mustache? You know what I mean? We think about all this stuff all because Ric Flair showed up. He wasn't the first, but he was the biggest. And then it became, who's the best? Who is it? Hogan? Is it Ric Flair? Even Macho Man, right? Because Macho Man we considered as the top tier in the WWF along Hogan, right? And it's that point in time where wrestling changes, and like I said, it becomes the era of the big time dream match. To this day, companies like Ring of Honor were doing that big time dream match. AEW, most of their stuff is big time dream matches. WWE, same thing. WWE builds out stuff now a little bit better than AEW, but realistically, they all build towards the big dream match. Look at Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu shows up. What do? He didn't even wrestle. He was with Solo as his bodyguard. Jacob Fatu versus Roman. All these guys, Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu. You know what I mean? It's still going on. So for me, Ric Flair coming in really changed everything. And then what sucks is that because it's WWE, they really didn't know how to put him together. But he wrestles Bret Hart in one of his last great WWF matches, besides the one where he wrestled perfect. But with Bret Hart, he turned Bret Hart into a made man. Somebody that we already saw rise with the Intercontinental title. But then Ric Flair shows up, puts him in, and makes Bret a legendary status. You know what I mean? So that whole, the big gold showing up with Bobby the Brain Heenan, for me, it changed everything because it showed me what you could do if you properly set it up and if you hype it up. That's the other thing. A lot of things, people do things and they don't hype it up properly. So when they expect a big reveal, everyone's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Which is what we see a lot with AEW because they introduce people without introducing them. They'll bring whatever Mexican guy, whatever Japanese guy. And like, we know who Okada is. United States don't know who Okada is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You got to set things up right. This thing with Ric Flair definitely was done right. And it's crazy because Ric Flair, 2 days before the title shows up on TV, tells Vince, hey, man, I got the belt. Vince is like, send it. Let's put it on TV. And the contract is signed 2 days before. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just crazy how something that was so on the fly ended up being so legendary because it was properly set up. So that for me is.
And Mack, it's funny that you bring that up because I don't know what the bigger shock was, that Ric Flair was on his way to WWE or WWF, or that the big gold belt was there. So a couple of years prior to that, the Brainbusters, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, were in the WWE. They were tag team champions, but they never referred to them as the Horsemen. Dusty Rhodes was there with his son Dustin. But, you're like, Dusty's an old man now. When you see that belt show up, I first caught it right before the main event of SummerSlam 91. Heenan goes to the back. He knocks on Hogan's door. He's like, hey, Hogan, I just want to show you what the real world championship belt looks like. And he slams the door in his face. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, he's got the fucking belt from W7, from NWA. Like, to me, that blew me away because I'm wondering, is this going to be title for title? Because I remember in my research as a kid, they would have those interpromotional matches. Harley Race would come into the town, challenge Bob Backlund, or Dusty would come in for a little while, challenge superstar Billy Graham. So I'm like, are we doing that? Or are we now acknowledging other organizations to be champion versus champion? And I had no idea about the politics back then. Again, we're young. There's no internet. You can't figure it out. But to know that Ric Flair is coming in with the other belt, to me, was just mind-blowing. And like you said, it's a matter of having that dream match, and that's where WWE dropped the ball. I don't care what they say, and they've said it on dozens of podcasts the last 35 years, that Hogan and Flair weren't selling out the arenas, which is bullshit, because I saw the first one at the Garden that they had, and people were losing their fucking minds. So for you not to put Hogan and Flair on WrestleMania, that's the point of bringing him in. The fuck were you doing? Oh, hold on.
I was going to say myself. Yeah.
Mega objects. Hold on.
They didn't drop the ball. Vince fucked up.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Drop the ball doesn't even do it justice. He fucked up. He threw away millions and millions of dollars.
Well,
shout out to Fred Rosser. But just like Steve said, if done right, he could have made so much money, but his fucking ego got in the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Flair can't be on par with Hogan. When I saw that belt, I'm like, oh shit. Like,
that's
mm-hmm.
What? Like, what? And when I saw like Flair, was just like, I was ready because I hated Hogan. Flair's the dude. Like, I was ready for it. And I was so crushed and devastated and let down that Vince dropped the fucking ball. I was hurt that he deprived all of us of many moments that could have happened between them two. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going to say history repeats itself because they did the same thing with the invasion angle. They dropped the ball big time.
Big time.
And
second-tier players,
all they had to do was just honor the contracts of the fucking big time players like fucking Nash and Goldberg and do it right. You know, instead of trying to get it for pennies on the dollar. And I understand why they did it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you're telling me I can stay home and get paid and not take a bump and I'm fine. And you're telling me to come to work for dates for a quarter of my money? No thanks. I mean, come on.
They could have got that money back easily. They could have got the return on those contracts within a year. Easily.
Of course. Same thing with Hogan. Same thing with Hogan, Paul Orndorff. They were drawing so much money with the gates on that feud that if Paul Orndorff was made champion, the amount of money they could have made in the rematch would have been tenfold what they made, and they didn't. For whatever
rhyme, would have been
a
million times.
He should have taken the title in Toronto.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah. But like I said, that Orndorff Hogan match would have been 10 times better than King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Mac, let me ask you a question. So the real world champion comes in. He comes in with the big gold belt. They've got to take it off TV. They give him a tag team title. They pixelated and shit like that. But at the 92 Royal Rumble, when he actually becomes WWF champion, what did that mean to you, knowing that the guy who you want to see in this fantasy match didn't necessarily beat Hulk Hogan, but now has the winged eagle around his waist?
Well, if you ask everybody who watched wrestling at the time that was a little bit older, they all say that's one of the best Rumbles ever, right?
Stacked.
Without doubt.
Talent-wise,
right? Yes. And that all comes together, one, because Hogan wanted to build Sid, right? Because he needed a new foil. And Ric Flair puts in the work. If you watch him, just him throughout that Rumble, there is not a dead moment. I've been in Battle Royals for like 20 minutes and I'm married to a corner, just like, oh my God, this is end already.
He came in at number 2.
Yeah. But like Ric Flair for 50 plus minutes, right? Chopping, bumping, selling, giving offense, doing everything to everybody. He gets in there with Piper. Piper was a madman. I don't know if you remember, Piper ran in and started going nuts on him. You know what I mean? Everything that he did in that Rumble showed everybody who would be a wrestler for the next 30, 40 years what it meant to be a champ and earn that title that night. You know, I was a Hulkamaniac. That's how I got into wrestling. My uncle showed me, Hogan coming in, getting ready to beat the Sheik. And I was like, man, this guy's amazing. But as I got older, I definitely appreciated Ric Flair, especially with those Steamboat matches and the Terry Funk matches. And by the way, I just got to share this one story. We working for 3PW in Philly, and Moth, Key, Homicide, and myself, we were in the Electric Factory in Philly, and they had several not small, but locker rooms for, I guess, if they have multiple bands there and they have couches and cable. So we were in one room. It was just us by ourselves. And all of a sudden the door opens and we hear, "Dusty, you egg sucking dog." So Homicide, who's the biggest Terry Funk mark, he's like, "Oh shit, Terry's here," right? So now he walks past the door and we're like, "Man, that's so cool. Terry Funk just walked by." Now Dusty comes into the room with us. So it's just us and Dusty. "Dusty, you egg suck, where are you?" Terry comes into the room and closes the door. So now we're like, "Oh shit," we know it's a work. I mean, we're wrestlers, But it really was the most genuine moment. It was Terry Funk yelling, and then all of a sudden, "Hey Virgil, how you doing?" And Dusty, "I love you, Terry, you fucking crazy fool." And we just felt like we were able to witness something so special that in a way I almost don't want to tell the story, because it's like one of the last remnants of true kayfabe, right? But at the same time, I got to witness something like that, where two mortal enemies for however many years, decades, and they're sitting there showing us, the rookies, that they love each other. And what the true spirit of pro wrestling behind the scenes, that was it right there. You know what I mean? And all this business that we've witnessed and we talked about tonight, that's really what it comes down to. It's men and women who are willing to make good business so that kids like us, fans like us, we always remember them. I talk about it a lot, especially now that I'm closer to the end of the tunnel than I've ever been. What's your legacy? What's the legacy of what your work is? And for me, seeing stuff like that, I take it all the more serious, because I'm able to have these great memories with guys like Papadon and Mega, who were able to travel the roads together, able to work hard and put on great matches together. And then we could sit back, and then at the end of the day, man, that was such a great time. And hopefully the same way Ric Flair and the Road Warriors and everyone else that we spoke about, these kids can watch us and say the same thing about us and what we did. You know what I mean? That's the best part about this whole thing. We're telling all these great stories. And by the way, when I wrestled Demolition with Papadon's old partner Havoc, we laughed because we used to say Bill Eadie was Papadon's real dad, not his dad in real life. When we're calling the match, they're standing right next to each other. I'm like, it's father and son. I know Papadon would appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Man, this whole podcast has been awesome for me, because almost everyone we talked about, I've got memories with. So I'm fortunate enough. You know what I mean? I know everyone else has their memories too with guys that they looked up to, and that's the best part about wrestling. Whether you play in the NFL, the NBA, MLB, you're not playing day one with your, Alex Rodriguez. You become a wrestler. There's a chance on your very first show, like I did, you have Hall of Famers from every level, every decade, and you get to learn from them and talk to them, and you have access to them. That's what makes wrestling so awesome to me.
And listen, guys, don't sell yourselves out. I mean, we're here talking about things that, when we were children. And again, I was a manager on the indies, but I'm so small. They're like, all right, I'm going to go learn how to work the pencil in the back because I got a good mind for it. But here we are, a bunch of grown men who are reminiscing about when we were children and seeing those things, seeing what we saw on TV that influenced, that gave us the passion. And we took that next step to get closer to it, to become a part of it. But again, don't sell yourself short, because each and every one of us has done something to put dreams in other generations. You guys performed in the ring. I might have wrote something or cut a promo so that somebody remembers. And the same way we're talking about Flair and Hogan and Savage and the Road Warriors is the same way somebody you might have touched them and changed them. And they saw you and said, fuck that. I want to do what that guy does. I've seen all the straps Papadon has. And he goes everywhere and wins a championship. He's got fucking belts across his arms. I seen Monsta Mack go in the ring and tear somebody up and beat the living shit out of somebody. I seen Mega go out there, the big guy. I'm a big guy. Fuck basketball. I'm going to go in there and choke slam the shit out of somebody. I seen Toddy D working in the back as an agent, talking to Rhino and Abyss and putting these matches together and all this other shit. And like I said, we may not be the biggest stars, but we went and we achieved our dream, and maybe we touched somebody out there. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight and reminiscing those dreams. And thank you for everything you have contributed to this business, fellas. Give it up for yourselves.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Listen,
Thank you. Thank you.
I honestly say that everyone on this podcast tonight, I've shared a locker room with, but most importantly, I consider a friend. And the reason why I say that is because Steve and I and Chris and I may not have talk day to day, right? Derek, you and I don't talk day to day. Ty, we don't talk day to day. But if right now we're picking up, we're right where we left off. Like nothing's changed.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a testament of true friendship. When I walk into a locker room, I see Steve, we hug each other. We don't shake hands. We hug each other. Same thing with Mega. And then we afterwards, after every NYWC show, me and Mega and I used to go out and we would hang out. Whoever else was around us. But I'd walk up to Mega, what are you doing tonight? Let's go grab a bite to eat. Yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Because real recognizes real, and we're all men. And unfortunately, this business now has come to the point where there's not enough men, and there's a lot of little fake little boys trying to be men, and it shows. But we're not going down that rabbit hole. All I'm just saying, it's an honor being here with you gentlemen tonight, because not only are we talking about the past and our memories and this, that, and the other, but just being in the same vicinity and able to freaking get 5 minutes with each other is rare nowadays, because our life comes in the way and it takes us all in different directions. I got 37 kids I got to take care of, it in the whole 9 yards. But the point is, we're here, we're making the most of it. So thank you very much. This has been fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this is great, man. This is great. One thing I love about wrestling is, and I would tell people, one thing I love about wrestling is it brings people from all different backgrounds together.
Oh yeah,
right. I would tell people, you know, if you saw me and Stockade down the street, you wouldn't think we were friends. Like a tall black guy listens to hip hop and some like white freaking crazy country looking dude.
I really wish you would have let Papadon describe Stockade for us, please.
That's the best thing about wrestling. It's the brotherhood, man. All walks of life.
Yep, and loved it. And then the one thing, Stephen, no, you will not remember this, but one thing that's indelible mark when Ghostface's third album came out. We were JP, and I came walking in, and he goes, "Yo, have you heard this? Have you heard Yolanda's House song?" I was like, "Nah, you gotta listen to this."
Yes.
And like sharing like our love for hip hop, it was just like, yo, I just love this shit. And if it wasn't for wrestling, I would never know any of you guys. But me and Steve wouldn't have bonded over Ghostface. And there's little things like that that I will always remember and always keep close to my heart.
Same here.
Same here, bro. Same here.
Absolutely, 100%.
Without a doubt.
And Jimmy still to this day sends me, yo, listen to this.
Yeah.
On Messenger. Yep.
Yo, dude, I mean, it's funny how many different facets of life we all have in common. And it only came into fruition because our common love for professional wrestling brought us together. You know what I mean? Whether it's music, whether it's women, whether it's we're not talking about those stories. Whether it's
That's number 2 on the list.
whether it's Star Wars, whether it's superheroes, whether it's MLB, go Mets, fuck Braves, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Point being is, it's spectacular. And I just want to say two things actually. Shout out to the sure thing, John Shane, my brother in arms,
my guy,
because Not only do I love him, but he says it all the time. The Flair Royal Rumble, his favorite match of all time, favorite Rumble of all time. So, with a tear in my eye,
Yeah.
that one's for you, John Shane.
I've been
That
dying
one's
to
for
say it
you.
the whole time.
Good man. Yep.
And my
I
own
just didn't want to
personal,
cut nobody off.
and my own personal Terry Funk experience. He was working as an enforcer at NYWC at a Psycho Circus, and Havoc and I were in that Psycho Circus. Meg, I don't know if you were in that Psycho Circus.
Oh,
or
I
not.
was in it when Ed freaking yeah. Gave me
So-
a freaking, yeah, go ahead.
So at one point, I don't know if you chopped me and I took a bump and I rolled out, but Terry was acting crazy the whole night, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, this old bastard done lost it, right?
Yes.
So I roll out of the ring and he has the look of like Jack Sparrow in his fucking eye, like he's like in another world. So I'm like, this motherfucker thinks it's real. He's punch drunk. He turns around and he starts jabbing me, jab, 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 and gives me the left, bang. But before he gives me the big left and he's jabbing me, they're work punches. I'm like, this fucker worked me, and I'm in the goddamn match this whole fucking entire time. And after he gives me the left, and I take a bump on the outside, I'm like, yes.
So, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So I was out there. So there was one point I went out and he was like pushing me, right? And pushing me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm about to hit this old man. I'm like, I can't hit Terry Funk. I just can't. Like, no. Like, do whatever you want. I'm not touching you. But I'm like, yo, this dude's crazy. And I knew he wanted me to throw something, him block it, and he punched me back. But I'm like, it's against the law. It's like the 12th commandment. You can't hit Terry Funk. And like, I can't do it. I'm like, I just can't hit Terry Funk. And I was just like, yeah, it was just, yeah, legend.
That's fucking tremendous. Todd, you got a quick story you want to tell about your tag match at Gleason's?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You just like me telling you this story over and over again.
I've heard it like 3 million times, but go ahead.
Hey, well, we'll make it 3,000,001. So when I was at WUW with Johnny Rods, they had a match at the Paddock Athletic Club in Brooklyn. So now I'm just learning. And I started with Roger Kahn, the Musketeer. So him and I were doing security that night. And the main event was Jimmy Snuka and God, I got to think now. I think it was Snooker and Santana against Nikolai Volkov and Hercules.
Wow.
So right before they went on with the match, you have the paramedic in the back and they're doing the blood pressure. So Nikolai Volkov's blood pressure was high. And they said to Johnny, we need to put somebody in. Swear to God, I'm just standing there. And he hits me. He says, you're in, Poppy. I'm like, excuse me, what? I'm barely trained. He says, you got to go out there. So now I got my best friend, his dad, they're sitting at ringside. And I had a security bit earlier in the night with Devin Storm before he was Crowbar. So I took a chair shot earlier in the night. So now I'm coming out with a bandage and I'm coming out with Hercules. So I'm just standing on the rope, holding onto the tag rope, thinking I'm just going to be like background. I'm not going to get tagged in. So Snook is going back and forth with Hercules and they're fighting back and forth. All of a sudden, Hercules goes for the hot tag. He tags me in. I freeze for a second. I get in. Snooker locks up with me. He's like, I got you, brother. Don't worry. So he's hitting me. I'm trying to fight back and forth. He does the body slam, kicks my legs together. I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, he's going to fucking splash me. So I'm laying there. It felt like a fucking eternity. All of a sudden, I had my eyes closed. I felt the fucking whiff of the wind coming down. His knees got right into my fucking rib cage, fucking hit me hard, pinned me 1, 2, 3. Hercules puts me on my shoulder. He carries me to the back. They're giving me beers. They toast me saying that's your, induction to starting with wrestling. I'm all fucking welted up. Hey, kid, you all right? So I'm trying to play it off. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. They're like, bullshit, you're in fucking pain. And they're all laughing. But later that night, Hercules said, hey, I want to go out for a few beers. You want to hang out? I said, absolutely. He said, where are you going? I said, there's this bar called The Clatter on Nostrand Avenue. I'm going to go meet my boys. Can I come with you and you take me back to the hotel? I said, absolutely. So we go to the bar. I said, Herc, do me a favor. Take the gimmick chains in the trunk. Bring him to the bar. I'm going to introduce you. Give me a minute. So I go in there. I tell the boys what happened. They don't believe me. I said, listen, if I present Hercules right now, the beer's on you motherfuckers for the whole night. Okay, fine. So I do the big introduction. He comes into the fucking bar with the chains. Everything just like stops in time. Everybody's like, what the fuck? They couldn't believe it was Hercules. So we drank all night, had a great time. He was telling me stories about Vince McMahon, how his office, he would sit like way above the wrestlers when they come in for a meeting to make you look like you're, minuscule. And as he's talking to me at the time, I had long hair and a ponytail, and I was trying to build myself up. He says, "Kid, you're gonna get this. You're gonna have a good run. Just bulk up, and don't give up." And that was the one night I got to hang out with Hercules. I took him back to the hotel, and shortly after that, he passed. And that's something I'll never forget. To this day, it was Bud Dry. If you guys remember the Budweiser Bud Dry cans, I have the can to this day that I drank with Snooker.
That's what's up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tremendous, man. Tremendous.
Yeah.
Well,
It was a great memory.
We're running out of time here, but brothers, we need to do this again. And I think I need to pull up another topic. So feel free to hit me up and let me know what you guys want to chop it up about. But I had a great time. Thank you for being part of the Midnight Hustle. Before we go, let's go around again and just everybody give your contacts, your socials, whatever, where people can hit you up if they want to talk wrestling. If you got anything coming up in the business.
Yeah, I am on Instagram and Twitter. I am never saying X. Instagram and Twitter at @KingMega_YGB for Young, Gifted, and Black. Shout out Big Daddy King.
Yeah.
I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Steve Mack, STEVEMACK. You'd be surprised how many people get that wrong. DHS, like the Hit Squad, all one word.
Pump.
May 25th, by the way, May 25th in Ridgefield Park. Me and gang going for Shadow and Bree combination joint show.
You can find me at Greek God Papadon on X, sorry, Mega, and IG, Demetrius Papadon on Facebook. Pro Wrestling T/Greek God Papadon is the store to buy GGP t-shirts. Greek God Papadon is the YouTube channel. This Saturday, I'll be in Virginia Championship Wrestling in Virginia. Next week, I'll be in Queens for Colossal Championship Wrestling. I defend my title against Mike Law. At the end of the month, the 31st, I'll be at NYWC. And I'm looking forward to doing this again.
Same.
Toddy D, what do you got?
I am on Twitter at Toddy D Wrestling, Facebook Toddy D De Palma, and YouTube Toddy D.
And you can find me, DieHard Derek G, on Twitter. What? Hey, Lex, what do they call it again?
I don't know.
Okay, never mind.
Yes.
Find me
That's
right
awesome.
here, YouTube, The Midnight Hustle. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Don't be a little bitch. If not, elbows may have to be dropped. Can you dig it? We're out.